Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're very happy that you joined us today for a live Q&A with Senior Kabbalah Instructor Tony Kosinec. Who is most likely joining us today? It might be a student of Kabbalah who's in a course of study. Maybe you've joined us before for one of these live broadcasts, or maybe you just happen to have landed here. Whatever level of your exposure to Kabbalah or understanding, this is such a great opportunity to ask Senior Kabbalah Instructor Tony Kosinec any questions that you might have about Kabbalah. So just post your questions in the chats and our tech team will pick those up from there. Also, we have some simultaneous translation for Spanish speakers. So if you're Spanish speaking, please love to hear your questions, and we'll let the audience know that you're sending us your questions. So Tony, great to see you. Great to be here, as always.
Here we are again. Thank you, Mary. There is a lot of suffering in the world. There's a lot of fear and there's a lot of suffering. And part of the reason that we're suffering is that we don't understand the purpose of suffering, and we don't understand the purpose of our existence. These things are really the same thing. If we knew and felt why life is constructed the way that it is, we would understand what suffering actually is, what the source of it is, and we would be able to adapt to it. But it's not something that is readily detectable, because the hiddenness of the purpose of life is part of the overall purpose. It's part of the mechanism that develops us. But this desire and the feelings that we have while we are trying to answer this question for ourselves is part of the reason for the suffering. This is what Kabbalah is about. It explains the structure of life, how it develops, where it came from, what the root of it is, why it is, and where it's going. In other words, there is a purpose to life. It's not the one that our ego seeks, like, what job am I going to have? What will my career be? But what is the underlying purpose of existence itself? And the suffering that is happening generally in the world now, the magnification of that is because we are coming to a high pressure point of this concealment of our purpose, to a degree in which it will or can be revealed to your heart. To understand why the emotion that we have, that we call suffering, is such a constant companion in our life, we have to understand how things are constructed. And we need to understand where we came from, what life consists of, and where it's going. The Kabbalists explain this in a simple form by describing it as 3 states of being. The first state, the origin state, what we were before coming into this experience, was that we were in complete unity, that we were connected completely to life itself, to the source of life. And Kabbalah describes the source of life, the creator, as a quality of unlimited, unrestricted, unchanging giving and wholeness. We originate in that place, but in our origin, we have no consciousness of this. And the purpose of our existence at all from that root is in order to fulfill us and allow us to experience this complete eternal wholeness and complete fulfillment in a conscious way, not just by receiving that quality of giving to our benefit, but to understand it and become like it and be able to connect with it in a conscious way. That can't be done in the first state. So from our birth, let's call it cosmic birth, there is a second state. This first state breaks. It shatters into many, many pieces of perception and falls into the state that we're in now. This second state is one in which we can't remember this quality of wholeness and complete giving at all. It's hidden from our heart and our perception. And we see ourselves as completely separated individual parts, small selves receiving everything from the environment around us. Around us, we see billions of people. We see mountains, planets, an entire cosmos. And this is all a measure of our disconnection from our source. All of these things that we see. And this disconnection from the source is the essential cause of the suffering that we feel. Kabbalah explains how we live in this second state in order to develop us to the point where we begin to desire, because desire is basically what we are. We were created as something that can receive what this eternal giving wants to give. Our very nature is this. Kabbalah shows us a method that allows us to navigate this second state and to come to the place where we desire a conscious reconnection. This is not an idea, it's a methodology. But it's completely opposite to the nature that we think of and feel in our inner life in this second state. Eventually, we come to the end of this state and we reconnect in a conscious way to this wholeness. Why? Because we have learned how to incorporate that initial first quality into our own heart, into our own attitude. And this reconnects us to all of the broken parts that we see in the world. Now, any way that we feel ourselves as not giving, not caring for the whole, not intending the benefit to be for this wholeness, and whether we know this consciously or not, we suffer as a result of that. Because all we want, and the great pleasure and desire that we're actually after, is to feel and be like the Creator, that first state that created us. Any variance from that in our own feelings and intention brings us suffering. And it's also the cause of everything that we call evil. But this evil, destruction, and so on, is really an external measurement of our own inner quality until we come to this third stage of ascent back to this wholeness. Now, that's the big picture. And you can summarize that big picture as love your friend as yourself. And I'll leave that to you to try to negotiate that phrase with what I've just described. Okay, that's the hors d'oeuvre. Let's get to the meal. Let's go to the questions, Mary.
Hey, great, Tony. There's a lot of meal here, so to speak. So many great questions coming in about suffering and how to reach the Creator. The first one is from Sima Saidi Kohanzadeh, viewing on Facebook. Why did Hashem punish us in the desert with death every time we made a sin? I know those things were huge, but he that is compassionate and merciful, wouldn't we learn more if he had punished us with mercy? I will ask this one first. Yeah, relates to what you were just sharing, Tony.
Yeah. The way in which the law of nature, which is the law of bestowal, developing the will to receive to its fulfillment, the way it acts on us is it acts on us exactly the same way as all of the elements in nature act on a seed under development. The seed doesn't stay in the form that it's in. All of the elements that it encounters in its existence, the minerals in the soil, the rain that falls, they all work on it to break its current state from its limited form. There is always a pressure that accompanies us in our growth. You can't be fulfilled unless you move beyond the current state of limitation that you're in. All of these actions in the desert are all actions of love, nourishment, in exactly the same way that a mother and a father treat their child in order to allow them to grow not only physically, but also to grow morally, in a sense, to understand what the real law of their existence is. So everything that happened there was not a punishment. It was an action of nourishment, moving us to understand and recognize what the real principle and intention of spirituality is, leading us to the point of reaching Mount Sinai, which is that in order to accept the law, we have to be reconnected as a so-called people or nation. This means you already, through your own intention, are being guided to the necessity of connection, of love your friend as yourself. And all of these things that say you go here and you go, ow. So you don't go there anymore. You go here, ow, no. What is this doing? It's guiding our desires towards the correct desire. That's an act of love.
Next question is along the same lines, Tony. Tamar GM, viewing on YouTube, is asking, is there a purpose in suffering? And can we connect to the source of life again?
Well, I just described the purpose of suffering there. Suffering brings us, it's not actually suffering, it's guidance. This is the thing that as you grow and learn how to live in this, I'm describing something and it sounds like a philosophy. It's not a philosophy once a person understands how completely opposite our fulfillment is from this state. This is an upside down world compared to our source, and also compared to the destination, the place that we will eventually develop into. Its qualities are completely opposite. So we're always measuring things by our own personal separated self-interest. It is the opposite quality from the thing that created us and is developing us. What is it developing us towards? To have the same quality, to have wished upon ourselves the same interaction and guidance that we now resist, understanding that the goal is far greater. Yes, you can reach this, and you do reach it when you engage with this process in nature in a conscious way, when you learn to want to go where life is leading us, which is a much better place than the small place that feels that each step of guidance is causing its suffering. But were it not for that suffering, we could never, ever reach anything. Because the basic definition of suffering is to lack something that we truly need. The feeling of lack. We just don't understand what that thing is that we actually need. And it's that definition of need that would fulfill the lack that is the thing that's changing. This is the thing that's developing. Because the whole external world that we see that seems to keep us out of spirituality is basically an illusion. The reality, the real place of action and interaction with the spiritual, with the upper force, is in the heart. That's the place where all reality is occurring and growing. And everything that we see as a result of those developments, are projections outward because we don't accept that we are responsible and connected to and actually creating the kind of world that we see. We're not able to do it because this world, compared to the first and to the next state, is reversed. And so is our perception of what is in and what's out. In actuality, everything is in. So all of these things that change in us are there only to bring us to that point. It is the purpose of our very existence, and that is the only place that we're going. But our suffering comes from our resistance to the development that we're under. We drag our heels. We don't want to go. And when you resist, there's pain. We have to learn what that is, what quality we are trying to develop into, and learn the method of doing that. And then the whole process is sped up. The pain of the process decreases, and the evolution that we're under affects all of the supposedly separated parts, you and your friends and those and even your enemies and so on, because all of that acceptance and rejection and separation is happening inside your heart. Mary.
Yeah, the next question you answered, Tony, maybe you want to elaborate, is suffering learning. This comes from a Spanish viewer, Sarandi Cuaro.
Well, yes. I mean, Mary, I think that was the whole elaboration that just spoke about. Learning is something that applies, from which you can apply a practical advancement. Learning means to come to understand and be more like the force that's developing us. And there's always effort. Whether we feel the effort as suffering depends a lot on whether we understand the mechanism. If we do, if we have some sense of it and it grows, that sense, then we begin to appreciate it. It's like great art. You begin to see and feel the aesthetic beauty of how nature is acting with you, how much it actually loves you, how brilliant it is, how perfectly it fits with you and goes to exactly the place that must next develop. It's a kind of a dialogue and a dance. The suffering is only there because of our rejection of the idea that we actually are whole, that the destination that it's taking us to is exactly what we want and need. We can't believe that. And we also think we are not worthy of it either, because when we look into ourselves, we begin to see that what we want is really, at its core, is really selfish, because that's how we were created. And we think, therefore, we're not worthy. We don't understand that this selfishness, this complete self-centeredness, becomes a useful tool for nature because it allows it to guide the things that we want. And also it allows us to develop what we consider to be the self. This is the big thing that undergoes change. Right now, we think of ourself as this separate individual, which needs to survive, and of course it does, and get the things that it wants, and to experience pleasure for itself, and that is first. But the process that we undergo gets us to recognize that all of this that we see is actually part of that original creature that was made. It's not something separated from you, from me. It is you. And the kind of care and identification of what is self also changes. And that's intended to be the learning process. This is the thing that we're learning. And yes, effort and occasional suffering are part of that. And we wouldn't be able to grow or learn or develop without that, just like every other aspect of nature that we see. You can see that from the human level on all of the things that happen below the human level. But somehow we think that shouldn't be happening on our level. There are levels higher than us that are developing us. And we undergo exactly the same things as the inanimate world, the vegetative world, the animals. We see all those forces at work, developing them, moving them. The same thing applies to us.
Another question from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Enid Pacheco. Hello, greetings from Venezuela. Greetings, Enid. Also, if others want to share your locations, you don't necessarily have to ask a question. Just post a location in the chat. I'll share those locations later on. So Enid's question: if the goal is to reach the likeness of the Creator, why can't we reach his essence?
The question of the essence of the Creator has got to do with which mind, with which quality we are addressing the question. The mind, thought, is a secondary factor. It's an effect. The cause of the mind and the type of questions that that mind asks comes from the intentional level, comes from the quality level. Let's put it this way, the Creator is the quality of bestowal. If we approach what we're learning in our life and any question from the quality of bestowal, to whatever degree we manage to develop it within our heart, the question of essence is a non-question. It doesn't, bestowal doesn't ask that question because there isn't a limitation that says there is something inside or outside of essence. Only the intention to receive would construct a question that says, why can't I have the essence if I can have the quality? Because in the question is, let's call it a material question, and the answer is a spiritual answer. The Creator is the place of life. He's called makom in Hebrew, place. That is where everything is occurring. To imagine ourselves outside of it comes from a material or will to receive intention, an opposite intention. In bestowal, there are no boundaries, there are no limitations at all. And so the question of essence is not a question.
Okay, next question comes from another Spanish speaker, Susana Varela. Thanks, from the Canary Islands. Is a disconnection with the source real, or is it just a distorted perception?
It's both, actually. Because what our quality is at any given point in our development determines what it is that we experience as reality. The ultimate reality is like a great light, and we can't bear that great light all at once. And it's concealed from us because it's not intended to be given. It is given, but it's not intended that we should reach that place by reception. It's intended, we're being developed to reach it by having the same intention as the the creator, that state that that created us. So it already exists like that. And the complete fulfillment is there waiting at every moment for any degree of desire that we have in its direction. It's standing by, the wholeness stands by to fill any degree of desire to bestow that it helps to develop in us. When our desire moves in that direction, to the degree that it developed in that direction, that amount of the wholeness and light enters us. So it exists as a whole, but if it just remained as a whole, there wouldn't be a creature. There wouldn't be anything to experience. So part of giving is to conceal an aspect so that there's room for the creature to exist and to feel the fulfillment. So it's both real and a distortion.
Thanks, Tony. The next question is from Joe Gracia. Are figures in the Bible, such as Moses, Jacob, Isaac, and others, were they actual people or representations of the world above only?
Most of the names in the Bible are states. They're spiritual states, but they are also people. And it's exactly the same as the way in which all of creation is made. Yeah, we are really just fields of intention. And at the same time, we also, in our development, experience ourselves as matter. Or we can experience ourselves as matter. Now, not every character in the Bible is a real historical figure. Some of them are just names of states, but the way in which the Bible is written is in a language that traverses between material and spiritual perception. And it allows a person to sort of climb through their perception of these stories to the actual inner aspect of heart and intention that it's really talking about and implying. So, yeah.
Okay, also just to mention, right after this 1 hour broadcast, we have live Zoom. It's a private session with Tony. So if you would like to join, you can think about that. If you like what you're hearing and learning today, just go to KabUconnect.com/live. The link will be posted in the chat and click on Zoom. And if you want to become a KabU member after clicking on the Zoom, you can sign up for a free trial. Then if you want to have personal interaction with Tony, ask follow-up questions, it's really an amazing session. So you're welcome to do that and join us for the 2nd hour. Okay, back to the questions. The next question comes from HZ on YouTube. If all of Kabbalah work is in spirituality, what's the purpose of continuing the painful corporeal life, other than continuing your duties in the society after the point of the heart is awakened?
The point in the heart is only the absolute beginning of the journey. There is a process of the evolution or correction of the heart and the intention. The point is, really, ultimately, the point is that it gives greater and greater pleasure, greater and greater fulfillment and satisfaction, greater insight and appreciation, exposure to deeper, more profound beauty. The work and the suffering accompanies the expansion, because the last correction corrects the deepest, most opposite part of the will to receive. It goes opposite to the way that we think, and So we are growing up, so to speak, at the same time that we are growing coarser and deeper. We are exposing our own nature in order to expose its opposite or its opposite quality within us, so that the darker and the more accurate our perception of our created nature, the will to receive, is, the greater light is possible to expose. Because it creates a deeper hunger and a deeper need for a greater and greater light. But this process is also a process of, well, when you're hungry, just think of how sweet and good eating almost any food feels as a sensation. This process of opposites and the unifying of the opposites is the process of development. It's how life works. There is no just one side to the story. You can't just go towards the light in a direct path. Nothing in nature works that way. Everything depends on its opposite. It has to stand and push away from something in order to move. And this is what happens in us. It's not once and for all. It's an expanding eternal pleasure based on the entire correction of our desire to receive for ourselves until it reaches complete fulfillment.
And we have another question about Moses from Reza, viewing on YouTube. In Torah, the part about Moses, where he is shown the Holy Land but is told he will not enter it, it made me wonder, is being eager for spiritual progress more important than reaching the destination?
Very nice question. It is the destination. Because the thing that we are trying to reach is to embody the exact same quality as the thing that we are valuing, trying to reach. In other words, to give entry to the, say, promised land, and land means desire in Hebrew, to the correct desire. Moshe, it's like, think of it as, gates of heaven. You want to get into this state. And at first we think that the way to get into the state is for the gate to open and for you to go through it. But reaching that quality that's beyond the gate is only reached actually by you opening the door and letting everyone else go in and not thinking about yourself. That's the quality that's on the other side of the gate. Leave it at that.
Sima Saidi Kohanzadeh has another question. Why, when we were complete, we became separated to come here, then we become complete again to go back where we were? In other words, why did we come here to go back to where we already were?
We're not going back to where we were. In the first state, we were there unconsciously. We simply were united with the light without an ability to know that even that we exist, and without any motion. We had no desire to move. That's the first state. The third state that we're trying to reach is to be at the same quality as the force that created us in the first state. We have to come to it in a conscious manner and become like it through our own desire, through our own desire and intention to be like that. In other words, we're mastering the quality of life itself. Instead of receiving, we are able to bestow. We're able to use receiving in order to bestow. This is a much higher place. It's called 620 degrees higher than the place that we started. This is not us as in the umbilical cord floating in the womb, unconscious and receiving absolutely everything without a thought and without any direction. This is us becoming like the force that created the womb and the child in it. It's a very, very different and powerful state compared to our beginning.
Tony, you mentioned thoughts. John Colvert is asking, hey, John, great friend of ours. Question, are our thoughts really our thoughts? It is said that there is none else besides him. If the creator is everything, where do our thoughts come from? And do these thoughts motivate us to come closer to him?
You know, it's a process. Since it's because it's about our conscious grasp of what's happening, while we are in the mode of reception as our major mode, then you can say every thought, every desire is the creator, comes from the creator. There is nothing of like a person has no power, no quality whatsoever outside of the complete wholeness and unity. As we develop, even though that's still the case, we're engaged with it in a very different way. Instead of we're aware of it, we appreciate it, we want it to be that way, and we want to do the same thing as that underlying thought that is coming from the creator or desire that's coming from the creator. In other words, what we think of as our conscious intention starts to go in exactly the same direction. In fact, at that point, when we are giving, it is the same thing. We are adhered to the creator, to the creator's force. And the question of, is it my thought or his thought, disappears because we recognize that that is exactly the thing, the direction that we're being developed to experience none else besides him as our own heart. This comes out of love and agreement with the force that's developing us. It starts out that everything is none else besides him, and it ends that way, except that we are in a love relationship with that fact.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you for your question, John. Next question is from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Teresa Abdallah. Doesn't the creator correct our lives all the time?
Yes, all the time, if we allowed ourselves to be aware that it was happening. But there are major moments of recognition and correction that we do feel. Either we reject them or we recognize them, but yes, it's happening all the time. That's what life consists of. That's the only thing that's happening.
Next question also from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Jamie Velasquez. After the physical death of an uncorrected being, what is it that is reborn?
The point in the heart, that spark that was the soul, that piece of the upper force, that thing that imagines itself as only a piece of the upper force, continues its development and finds itself in the same place, probably at the same degree that it left off, and it continues from there. Because the mandate, the thought, the entire vector of existence is only that you will, or one will, come to this complete fulfillment. So nobody gets left out. It's just a matter of how resistant, how many times we go through what you can call incarnation and so on, until it's completed. Now, a person can complete this in a single lifetime with an awakened point in the heart. It just depends on effort and desire, willingness to learn and understand those feelings that we call suffering, and to allow the guidance and so on. But you can reach this in one lifetime, but all lifetimes all together, and every different level of life, every strata of life in the cosmos is undergoing this and nothing else. It's just disguised as other things because our intention wants to see it that way.
Tony, we have two viewers with pretty much the same question from Daiva. I think, first of all, we should learn how to love ourselves, how to do this, and how to know what we love ourselves and how to love others. And Christina Meia, Spanish-speaking viewer, how do I know that I love my fellow man?
Those were from two different people?
Yes.
Well, so the first one was just a statement?
How do we learn how to love ourselves? How do
Okay.
we do this?
Oh,
And
how do we learn how to love ourselves? Okay.
Yes.
Don't worry. You love yourself more than you love anything. You don't need to learn that. This is the core of our suffering, is that we love ourselves. And we don't. You'll notice that anytime that you are concerned and working and in the midst of doing something for another person, you forget yourself. You forget about yourself. And your experience of life is quite different. It's much better. It's much happier. It's much more alive and fulfilling. You know that you're needed, that that you have consequence, that something to give, because the other needs you. So that natural loving of yourself is there, but it disguises itself, and we feel that we hate ourselves because we know, we can intuit and feel that the only thing we care about is ourselves. So if loving myself is to excuse me for being always and only thinking about myself, which is my real core, which is the only thing that was created in creation, that sense of ourselves and of that quality is actually a good and necessary thing for growth. Loving others allows the heart to love, and in loving others, the light passes through us and allows us to love ourselves. We can't love ourselves by focusing on loving ourselves. You can only love yourself when you see the good that you do to others. How do you know? The second question was, how do I know when I'm loving others?
Yes, how do I know if I love my fellow man?
You don't know. You probably don't. This is something that you have to. Here's what you can do. You can want to love your fellow man. That's the limitation, because the ability to actually love others that way is the goal of life itself, and it's an end state. But if we're in if we just want this, then the light, the upper force, will come and do the loving for us, because we're not created that way. We're not capable. We can't actually help ourselves to do that. That's why desire is so important. If you desire to have the desire to love others, like truly care for others, If it hurts you that you don't, then that in itself is a prayer, and that will be answered, because that's the light is standing by for you to have that need. This surrounding light of the total connection is waiting for any of these feelings of, I wish my nature was opposite to what it is. Then the light comes into the situation and helps, gives the strength, allows you to do the act that you wouldn't do because of your selfishness and so on. It's actually the creator that does that act of giving, because it's an opposite quality to us. And the way that we bind to it is by wanting it, not by doing it, because it created us in an opposite nature. We're looking for a marriage here. We're not trying to be the other person. We're trying to meld these two qualities together in such a way that the result is giving.
Tony, it's very exciting. We have viewers from all over the planet joining us today. So I'll read some of those locations. If you want to share your location still, we'll try to get to a few more before the end of the broadcast. We have Pittsburgh, PA, Venezuela, Ecuador, Mexico, the Netherlands, California, Miami, Delaware, Oriental, North Carolina, San Diego, California, LA, Erie, Pennsylvania, Maine, Spain, Midwest USA, Leipzig, Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Connecticut, Chile, Mexico, India, Michigan, Ohio, Sardinia, UK, Canary Islands, Miami, España, Uruguay, Costa Rica, South St. Paul, Minnesota, Cordoba, Argentina, Ethiopia, Brussels, Nigeria, Germany, and Wales. Wow. Thank you.
But still no Puerto Rico.
No, Puerto Rico. Maybe someone will chime in before the end of the broadcast, so I can say it again. You can too. Okay, so let's go to the next question. This is from Hamid Power Style. Hello. My question is, does God know himself and know who or what he is? Or shall we say the whole story of creation is a self-discovery for him? Thank you.
The will to receive, the kind of perceptual basis that we have, which is the cause of the separation in our perception, is the one asking that question. That part in you is asking that question because it sees spiritual qualities as entities in time and space in some manner. But there is no entity, there is a quality. Now try to think on what is the difference between an entity like in space and a quality of attitude and intention. It doesn't have space. It is what it is, and there's no limit on that. That's how movement in spirituality actually occurs. If you have a particular intention here, an unbounded quality, and you have a different unbounded quality intention here, which is also unbounded, meaning that they value different things, their intentions are different. They can never be connected. They're as distant as east to west. They never meet. But if this other quality starts to have the same intention as this quality, they are the same thing because there's no boundary on it. They're the same thing. The heart and your soul develops and becomes connected with that unmeasurable quality through the changes of its intention. And it becomes one in the same thing as that by that movement. So there is no place in which a quality exists because it is the entire place. There's no space involved with it. There is no necessity to know itself. And that is one of the key things about the quality of bestowal. It doesn't think about itself. It doesn't have that self-referential quality that the will to receive does. It it only emanates, it only gives. It has no other quality that would locate it in some other thing. It's pretty deep, that stuff. I think I'll leave it there.
Okay, let's go even deeper here with the All-Star League ET. I'd like to meet his friends or her friends. From Ethiopia, by the way.
Great.
What do we do with the intricate details of the evolution of reality, like the cascading of the partsufs, like Nicodeme, Desag, and the like? What does understanding this help us in, please?
These things are actually the structure of our inner desire. It describes how an inner desire changes or evolves from a first from a state which is all bestowal, and how it can cascade or change into something that is only to receive. And it describes those degrees of development from that first state that I described at the beginning of the broadcast down to the second state. This is a description of sphirot, partsufim, ab, sagma, bon, all of those partsufim. And it also describes then what it is that a person needs to do. This is like the map of your emotions and what quality is motivating those emotions back through those states. So in the end, it's only talking about the quality of connection within you, the quality of bestowal and its development within you. The intricate details, what do you do with them? They are only intricate in order to create a fulfilling setting for discovery within your heart. It gives detail to the emotional landscape. It makes the process fulfilling and beautiful. The details resolve. By a process of division, you're kind of simplifying your own desires so that it's not scattered into a lot of broken pieces within your desire. First, when it descends, it shatters. It's broken into many, many, what we think of as many, many different desires, even many, many billions of people and so on. They're all desires. On the ascent, there are unifications that are happening until we see finally that it really is only one desire in relation to the Creator. So the details are part of the breaking and the descent, and the ascent is the unification of those into a single desire. And that's what all of the detail of the technical science is describing.
Tony, the next question comes from Reality Expansion Vault. In other words, Dave. Dave, how'd you get in there? I'm joking, I joke around about some of these names, but they're so creative. I really love them. So it's in fun, but with respect. I think it's great. Reality Expansion Vault. So Dave is wondering, will AI ever figure out bestowal and help guide us as a tool into spirituality?
No, it can't, because the whole purpose of creation is that you do the guiding, not a robot. The robot is our creature, and we're we need to guide and fulfill and do all those things, not to make a mechanism that will do it for us. It can't guide. It's part of our soul. It doesn't have its own soul. This is an extension. Really, it's mostly an extension of our will to receive. No, I think it's 100% extension of the will to receive. You go get that thing for me. Okay? Bring it back to me, the king. Okay, go get it. Tell me, what do I need to know to look brilliant? Okay, thank you, slave. That's what AI is. It puts us on some kind of a cartoon throne, but it can never replace the thought of creation, which is to bring you to that highest level.
The next question comes from Marissa Ayalo, a Spanish-speaking viewer. What can we do when we see in nature that everything is created in a perfect and granting or giving way for the development of life? And the question arises, what can we grant and to whom?
Yes, the whole point is that you get to a place where you get out of the way of the quality of the creator. Stop blocking the passage of light from above to others, and you become a conduit for that light, for that perfection. You become part of its flow. Because you're open and thinking about the other and not about yourself, the light comes. That perfection that you see is not just something that you see objectively outside of yourself. You feel it moving through you because your intention is to help, to do good, and to see the fulfillment of the others that you see around you. Therefore, the light doesn't bang up against your ego and your desire to hold on to the light for yourself. It passes through you, but you also, you basically become like the light. It also fills you in order to pass through you. And you're living in the flow of the perfection and beauty that you perceive. You are the beauty. You are one with that perfection. And the perfection is made not out of everything, not needing anything because it's so complete and fulfilled, but the perfection is that there is a place of need that you can fulfill. And there's tastes there, there's pleasure because there was a need. And now it's being filled. And now you're part of the filling of that to the others. And the pleasure that you receive is not just for your filling, which is really small. It's puny compared to feeling the pleasure of all of what you see being fulfilled through your attitude towards it. That's like, that becomes your own vessel. That's the degree of pleasure that it's possible to feel. An eternal, unbounded pleasure because it's not just happening in your limited vessel. Thank you for that question.
We're almost at the top of the hour. Tony, do you want to take one more question or?
No, I think that will be it. That's a good one to end on. So thank you, friends, and Mary's got some announcements for you.
Okay, great. A few more locations here. We have Northern Ireland joining us, New Mexico, Morocco, Denia, Spain, Oakland, California, Ontario, Canada, South Africa, Haiti, Guatemala, and Illinois. So thank you for sharing all of those locations with us. A few announcements. If you want to join KabU, if you're not already a KabU member, then we invite you to join. You can see the link in the chats. You'll gain access to several Kabbalah courses from beginners to advanced, join the world's largest online Kabbalah community, the ability to ask instructors questions anytime you have one in student forums, access to the KabU exclusive weekly webinar. Also, you get access to the next Kabbalah Revealed course with Tony. That starts on May 18th, so that's coming up soon. You can also support KabU in a couple of ways if you like our content. You can become a KabU member and get access to everything I just mentioned, or you can make a donation, and the donations do help to produce our courses and broadcast our live events and maintain all our services. Also, don't forget there is a live Q&A session on Zoom happening right after this. So the link is in the chat, and we'd love to see you there. Thank you. So many great questions, really great flow of questions today. It's greatly appreciated. So happy that you joined us.
Yes, very beautiful and serious questions. I truly appreciate it. It was fun. Thank you.